Hi, my name is Agnes, and today I'm here with Angellie, who worked overseas in Australia. She's going to be telling us about her experience overseas. So first, could you please tell us about yourself, the program you're in at Waterloo, and where you worked?
Sure. So my name is Angellie Castrojas. I just completed my Bachelor of Arts degree in Honors English, Digital Media and Management. I worked as a co-op technical writer at 4 technology companies, but my most recent co-op work term was abroad in Australia. I worked in the digital media marketing field for an organic cosmetics line.
Right. So why did you choose that location in particular?
So I chose Australia because I've always been fascinated with the country. I love the whole aspect of having gorgeous beaches and a scenic landscape. And on top of that, I've always got the vibe that Australia was laid back, yet kind of wild and adventurous. And I just wanted to explore that firsthand. And it's one of those places where you need a lot of time in order to explore the country. So I knew that I didn't want to just go there for a vacation for like a week or two. Right. So co-op abroad was the perfect opportunity, and I was making income while I was there.
That sounds great. So what resources and types of contacts did you employ to find that position?
Yeah, so I had my heart set on Australia. It was my #1 choice if I were to go abroad for co-op. There were no job postings on JobMine, the University of Waterloo system, for any job positions there. So I had to take initiative and research for job positions there on my own. But what I found was it was very difficult, especially for international students. So I found an organization called Australian Internships, and they work to help international students find placements. So they were very helpful. I went through a bunch of interviews, and then they finally secured me with a position there that matched my education and my skills.
So you mentioned Australian Internships, that's the organization you applied to. How much did it cost you to apply?
Yeah, so they had an initial application fee if you wanted to be a part of the Australian Internships program, and that was about $700 Australian. And then in order to continue on, if you wanted to do interviews, you have to pay about $1,000 for them to help organize and set you up with a bunch of interviews. But then after that, once you've secured the position and you're making income while you're there, I feel like you kind of make it back. So it just depends what type of job you were to land.
Right, all right. Right, so could you please describe for us a daily routine at your international workplace, like a day on the job?
Yeah, so on a daily basis, I would input data into the system, like survey, anything marketing related. I also created visual designs for social media posts. So whether it was collages or just promotional type of images. I also implemented marketing plans and strategies and went on business meetings and just daily administrative tasks.
That kind of thing. It sounds cool. What was the cost of living in the country or, in the particular city where you worked?
Yeah, so Brisbane was an urban city. It's very populous. I found that because it was a city life, things were more expensive. But I heard that in Australia, in general, it's expensive anyways. So I would say most of the things I spent on, whether it was groceries, shopping, even accommodation, it was probably double the amount that I would pay here in Canada. But at the same time, it evens out because domestic flights to travel around Australia, as well as public transportation and staying at hostels was fairly cheap. So if you were to go there, I recommend just finding a really good accommodation that is affordable, that fits your budget, and cooking all your own meals, and then you'll be able to save more for travel plans.
Right, so speaking of the financial side of things, how was the pay for your job, and did you actually manage to make enough money to cover all your living expenses?
Yeah, since I'm an international student working in Australia, the pay apparently was fine for someone coming into the country. That was the norm for interns that were international. I wouldn't say it was as much as the jobs I was paid here in Canada with my co-op jobs, but it was enough to get by, and I was able to do the things I wanted without restrictions. So it's all about like asking questions beforehand when you secure a position and making sure you're comfortable with that wage, because you probably won't make as much as you would in your home country.
Right. So did you experience any culture shock there?
I actually didn't experience major culture shock because it's very similar to Canada. Australia is like a first world country. It's part of the Commonwealth. So in terms of just how things were run and how people were, they were very friendly as well, and they spoke English. The only difference was their accent as well as some of the terminologies they used. So that took a while for me to get used to, especially if they spoke quickly or they used terminology at work that I was expected to know but I didn't know right away. So
like slang and stuff?
Slang, yeah, exactly. They said the word heaps a lot, which means lots, even in professional settings, which is interesting. And they said reckon, which means think. So they would be like, I reckon. And what else did they say? They said keen. So if they were interested in something, they'd be like, oh, I'm keen on that. Like, those are the top 3 things that I remember them saying a lot. So in terms of the workplace, that's something you have to get used to, especially because I worked in the marketing field. So you have to know your target audience, and that was Australian people. So yeah, I definitely had to adapt into the way they worded things when I made visual designs.
Right, yeah, that's something new. What about the food? You said it's pretty similar culturally, but was there any difference in that type of food?
I actually didn't get to experience very much of Australian cuisine because it's kind of like in Canada. We don't really have like a set Canadian meal aside from like poutine. That's something that stands out. There, they have like crocodile jerky and kangaroo jerky, but I saw those animals at the zoo and I was like, I'm not going to eat them. So most of the food that they had there was also like international cuisine, like how we would have here, like Chinese, Greek, Italian, and major fast food chains. So there was not much of a difference in terms of food.
And you mentioned traveling, so where did you go?
Yeah, so one of my highlights was going to Rainbow Beach, which was in the state of Queensland, north of Brisbane, where I lived. And I went skydiving there over the beach, and I landed right on like the sand, and it was really scenic and beautiful. Another thing I did was I did a helicopter tour near Brisbane, Great Ocean Road, so that was really nice, the 12 Apostles coastline. I was able to hold a koala at the zoo and pet kangaroos. What else did I do? Oh, and I went to Sydney at the end of my work term and just traveled around there. And I saw the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House.
That's cool. Yeah. So what was the most challenging aspect of the entire experience?
The most challenging aspect of going to Australia was adapting into a startup company. So my organic cosmetics company wasn't very big. There was 5 people coordinating and running the business. So they gave you a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things that weren't really listed on the job description initially. So if it was little things like answering the phone, photocopying, like in my previous co-op work terms, I worked in big corporations where, everyone had a specific role. Here, they just kind of went as you go kind of thing and assigned you tasks. So it was very interesting, but I found that it was rewarding and I learned to enjoy a fast-paced environment.
I guess that's the impact it had on you, right? It made
exactly.
you enjoy new things.
I think so, exactly, yeah.
All right, so what advice would you give to other students who are interested in an international co-op experience?
So advice I would give to other co-op students that are thinking of doing an international experience would just be to save some of your income from your first few co-op work terms, whether it's a little amount or a big amount, but just have a set amount that you have in mind and stick with it and constantly put it away on your savings. That way, you don't have to save and be panicked right before your co-op work term abroad.
So you can really enjoy the experience.
Exactly, yeah, and get like a part-time job while you're on academic term if there's something you're really serious about. And also apply for scholarships, awards, and grants, because I found that really helped me, because I would recommend not going through the loans route unless you really had to, because you want to be able to enjoy your experience and not have to worry once you're there or have to pay back for it later. And once you're there, you're making income anyway, so that'll be your spending money. So you don't have to worry about the financial aspect if you take care of it in advance.
Right, so budget, guys.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for coming in today.
Yeah.
And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Bye.